And that certainly provoked quite a bit of interest, the corporate membership. So this is slightly different. And Steve, who's effectively my boss, I guess, as a Rotary coordinator, and I'm just the assistant coordinator. Steve, a long-term Rotarian, born and raised in Merseyside, to join the Metropolitan Police, and spent the last 17 years training police dogs and handlers, not just for Merseyside police, but for police forces across the world. In 2001, his Rotary career began when he applied for group study exchange and visited Queensland, Australia, a truly life-changing experience for Steve. After his return, he joined Rotary at the age of 37, with sponsoring Club Neston in Cheshire. And within weeks, he took a place on the district foundation committee. Steve, we have got a vacancy here as well, as the alumni officer, and has had a district role since that day. Club president 2010, group study exchange chair until its last year in 2013, a team leader who took people over to the Amazon in Brazil. He's travelled to India to take part in mass immunisation days, some of the most humbling experience of his life. After completing 3 years as an AG, he was district governor of 1180 in 2018-19, and somebody put his arm up his back to become assistant coordinator, looking after membership. And in August last year, due to unforeseen circumstances, he moved up to Rotary coordinator, looking after Region 20. So I think that's everything north of somewhere about the north of Wales. But Steve will tell me if we're wrong. Still works part-time at Liverpool Football Club, whatever that is, and will soon be taking on another role as Deputy Superintendent Registrar Marriages for Cheshire Council. He's married to Olivia, to Maria, a Rotarian, and has 2 children, Olivia and Jake. And Olivia is in the Rotaract Club. His ambition as coordinator is to have a place where everyone can become a member and feel comfortable and able to serve. So Steve, if everyone would just welcome Steve, and we'll hear all about things. Steve, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ken. It's great to be here, and it's nice to see a district that are, even at this stage of the pandemic, when we're kind of on our way out, that are still getting their heads together and, and having discussions about Rotary, because, it's great to see it's what it's all about. And the last bit of what Ken said there is the most important bit. Forget all the other stuff, apart from the Liverpool Football Club bit. Remember that, because, it's obviously very important. According to John, it is anyway. So yeah, the most important thing for me is that Rotary is there is a place for everybody. So by that I mean a comfortable place where anybody can go and actually go along and say, yeah, this suits me. This suits me. This meeting in a coffee shop at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, or this suits me. Meeting at on a Wednesday lunchtime in the golf club, or Thursday night 8 o'clock where we have dinner every week. Yeah, that suits me. Or meeting online every 2 weeks and meeting up once a month. Ultimately, that's what we need to aim for. We've all said, and we all kind of subscribe to the fact that I hope we do, that Rotary is inclusive. It is for everybody. There are people out there. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people that have volunteered during the recent pandemic that would make great Rotarians. I did my time volunteering down at the local doctor's surgery, where, particularly in the early days when we had a lot of elderly people coming, it was January, it was IC and what have you, and we were helping people into the local doctor's surgery. We were marshalling. And I marshalled with a man who was in his early 30s. He was married, he had 2 children, he lived in a 2-bedroom flat supplied to him by the council. He was a chef, and he earns £15,000 a year. He just bought his first car. He was incredibly proud of it. £500 he spent on it. And this guy stood there in the freezing cold with me day after day. We didn't do long shifts or anything like that, but it was a commitment. And every time I turned up, he was there. Every single time, every single shift I did, he was there, and I worked with him each time. Is he an ideal Rotarian? Is there a place for him in our organisation? This guy, he was furloughed, he wasn't getting paid, but he got out there in the freezing cold and he volunteered in his local community. So I would suggest that, yeah, there should be a place for people like that in our organisation. So ultimately, we need to change things. We need to look at different ways of not only attracting people, about actually keeping people, because most people who join our organisation now leave within the first 2 years of joining, and we need to be able to do something about that. So one of the things that struck me quite some time ago, in fact it was whilst I was district governor a couple of years ago, and I was doing some research online and I came across a thing called the Passport Club, and I thought, that's interesting, what's all that about? And it was based in America, so I had a look at their Facebook page, and then I found another one in Australia, so I had a look at theirs, and I thought, this is a really interesting concept, this. These people, they don't actually have a physical club to go to. How does this work? Really interesting. So I messaged them and I said, look, I hope you don't mind me asking, but how does this work? How do you do projects if you don't meet, or you just meet online? I don't get it. It wasn't criticising, just didn't get it. But they explained to me what it was, and then the year that I was district governor, I set up a vocational training program, and it was actually with that district that I did my GSC with in 2001. I've been in touch with my hosts ever since, and we decided to set something up. I wanted to do it in my year as governor, and to keep that relationship going. When they came back, it was some special educational needs teachers that went out there. When they came back, they were telling me of this wonderful Passport Club that they had been in touch with when they were out in Australia. And they said, we are all working. One of them, Claire, she works over 2 schools. She's got 3 children. She lives in North Wales. She's flitting about all over the place, picking up, dropping off, doing this, that, and the other. But I just haven't got time to join Rotary. She said, but that Passport Club, she said, honestly, he said, you need to look at it. Now, I'd already mooted this to my district membership chair, who at the end of the meeting, whilst I was district governor, said to me, right, in rounding up, he said, and we've talked about the Passport Club, which Steve, if you get cracking on that and get back to me, and I said, I'm district governor. I said, I've got all the things to do, Said, you are the membership team. I'm saying to you, this is a good idea. Anyway, it wasn't taken up. And then 18 months later, I got a phone call off somebody, and he said to me, I was at that meeting when you mentioned this Passport Club thing. Are you still interested? Because it's something that I would like to take forward with you. So I grabbed the opportunity, and this is where it started. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the club that we set up, how we set it up, the advantages, the disadvantages, the pitfalls, and how you can make it work for you, and how, in my opinion, this is a great way of attracting people to our organisation, and also, more importantly, to prevent people from leaving our organisation. I'm going to share my screen. Let me just find everybody there. And hope it's still there. That is my wife's PowerPoint. If you want me to do something on diversity, I can do that for you whilst I'm here as well, because I have that. There we go. Did leave it open. I don't know why it's not there. So slideshow. Okay, so that's me. And as Ken pointed out, I am a Rotary coordinator appointed by Rotary International, and my portfolio is membership. So I kind of look at the membership side of things, and we have assistant Rotary coordinators that cover the Region 20. I have 3 of them, of which Ken is one, and he's in his final year. And I'll be quite honest with you, I'm going to be lost without him next year, because he does so much work. He's going to be a great loss to our team. But certainly for your district, coming in as district governor, I would expect big things. So don't want to big you up too much, Ken. So let's have a quick look at this is region 20 age profile. Okay, so this, like, the region stretches from right the way up to your guys as far north as you are, right the way down to probably it takes in the whole of Ireland, North Wales, going right over across the country over towards kind of Lincolnshire, that sort of area, Northamptonshire and northwards of. And this is one of the main issues that we have. I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but our age profile is an issue. If you look at the large green segments there, that is everybody over 70. Okay, the dark blue, which is the other large segment, they are unreported. They are people who won't disclose their age to us. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that a lot of those people, the vast majority of those people, are over 70 as well. Now, our over 70s do amazing work. They are the backbone of Rotary. There is no question about that, because there are so many more of them than everybody else, and they're doing amazing work, and they will continue to do amazing work in the years to come. But in 10 years' time, all those people in the green and all those people in the dark blue, a lot of them are not going to be around, do we say? And if they are around, they quite rightly probably think, well, I've done my bit, I want to take a back seat now. Which leaves us with the light blue there, the yellow, the grey and the orange, a tiny little bit of blue that you can see up there. So that's the 60 to 69-year-olds. But don't forget, in 10 years' time, the 60 to 69-year-olds are all going to be in the green as well, okay? So it's leaving our under 60s rather underrepresented in the organisation. So I put that up there just to give you an idea of why it's really important for us to look at different ways of doing our Rotary, because if we carry on doing it the way that we are doing it, you know, it's not going to work. We're not going to have an organisation to speak of in years to come. So, bearing that in mind, have you ever heard of these things? I'd love to join Rotary, but I don't have time. I've got kids. Can't do it because I've got kids. What's the next one? Oh, I'm always working. I've got so much work to do. I just can't. And I can't really justify the cost, you know, like 40, 50 pound a month. It's just too much. You know, the wife would never have that. You know, I'd love to volunteer, but it's not really my theme, you know, just volunteering, if that's what it's about. I couldn't be doing with all those meetings. I must admit, I feel a bit like that sometimes myself. Couldn't be doing with all those meetings. It's not my scene, you know. You will have all, as Rotarians, heard this because, of course, I've no doubt that you will have asked lots of people to join Rotary or to get involved. And these are the reasons that people will say, actually, I can't get involved. These are the reasons. These are the things that people are saying to us. Now, if that is what is happening, then this could be the answer to you. Rotary passports, and ours is Rotary Passport North Wales and North West England. It's a bit of a mouthful, but we have to try and keep everybody happy. But towards it's the 1180 passport. It was the first one. It was formed in Rotary Great Britain and Ireland, and we now have a second one. And I have been to speak at loads of different places around the country by invitation to talk about this, and there are some others now well on the way to being formed as well. So it's a passport. So what is a passport club? It is basically a more flexible way of being a Rotarian. You start at a passport club in your district, and there is no geographical boundary except for your district boundary. Okay, so anybody can join it as long as they live in your district. There's a relaxed attendance policy, obviously, because you're going to be meeting online a lot of the time. Now, I'm not saying that you do all the time. It's a passport club. It's your club. You do what you want. If you want to meet online once or twice a month, and then in person twice a month, you can do that. But I'm kind of guessing, and I'm looking at my little map of Scotland, which I had earlier on, here somewhere. That's a pretty big district you're living in up there. It's a long way. There's lots of big hills as well, I seem to remember. So this could be an ideal club for somebody who lives in a more remote part of Scotland that has no Rotary club anywhere near them, and it could take them an hour to get to. The passport model could be an excellent idea for them. Offering a variety of meeting formats. So there is the meeting online, however often you want. You can meet in person if you want. Generally, ours was set up, we said every other week, meet online for an hour to an hour and a half. And they choose to run that meeting how they want, because it's their club. And once a month, the idea was that they would meet in person, and that would be in the centre of the district somewhere like Chester, where they'd meet for a beer and a pizza or whatever it may be, or they would meet to do a project. The advantages, you're meeting less frequently if you wish. Of course, again, if you're starting a club, you actually, the beauty of being in a club from the start is that you can actually model it on how you want to do it. The meetings are focused on service or social activities. Ours is very much on service at the moment, because the social activities have taken a bit of a nosedive, haven't they? So it is pretty much service orientated, and I will tell you a little bit more about what the sort of things they're up to shortly. But setting affordable dues, they charge £10 a month to be, and that is basically all it costs to be in Rotary. It actually costs slightly less than that to be in Rotary. They have a little bit left over, which they throw in a little slush fund. But £10 a month, it covers your RI and RIBI fees. So that's actually all you have to pay. Anything above that, if you want to have a meal, if you want to have a drink, if you want a pint, you have to pay for it. But I think everybody kind of understands that. They measure the club health by participation rather than attendance. We have, probably enough, the girl Claire that I was talking about before, who went on the vocational training team. She joined this club, and she joined it because when I mentioned it to her, she said, absolutely ideal. So she joined, but she said, I can't get to every meeting. I won't be able to do it. I know that now. And so she probably goes to a meeting once a month. But in between times, in terms of the fact that she's a teacher, you should see the other things that she's done in between times. The amount of laptop that she has gathered and had shipped off over to Africa as part of the project they were doing. So each person has their part to play in the club. It's not all about going to meetings, it's about what you do. So Passport Club, it is not designed to poach members from other clubs. It's very important to state that, because some people do have that. When our Passport Club was started, the person who approached me was a Rotarian. Both him and his wife wanted to leave their club because of the treatment of his wife as a female in their club. I'm very sad to say. And I've known them for some time, and they are both excellent Rotarians. And it was really sad that happened, but they didn't want to leave. They wanted to carry on in Rotary, but it was quite made clear that she wasn't welcome there. So they've left, and they started. I also had somebody else who was 25 years old, had been in Rotary for a couple of years, 3 years, and was actually taken into the club by his granddad, if you believe. He's our public image chair. He's an excellent Rotarian, and they wouldn't allow him to be president. They said he didn't have enough experience. He was too young to be president. And yet he was the district public image chair, and he also has a national. So you know, each to their own. He said, "Look, you know, I need to move clubs." So he moved in. He is actually the club president. So we had this group, a small group of people together, and it grew from there. But we all said from the very outset, nobody is to approach anybody at another club. All we do is make them aware that the Passport Club exists. Okay. It can be a safety net to help those disenchanted Rotarians find a home, because there will be people at the end of this Rotary year who will be looking to leave Rotary for whatever reason, and somebody that you might not even know. They might be members of your club. There might be something that's happened. They might have fed up, bored, had enough. Rotary's not what it used to be, whatever it may be. But there needs to, but this could be a safety net. This is somewhere where you can say, listen, before you go, just go and try the Passport Club. Park yourself there for a little bit, and let's see how it goes. Don't be too hasty. There is a place where you can go that is going to be different type of Rotary for you. It's an ideal place to welcome back those people who've recently left due to one of the reasons, perhaps that we'd already discussed, You know, people leave Rotary for all sorts of different reasons. A lot of it is time and commitment, etc., etc. There is far less time and commitment in a passport club than there is in a club that meets every week and has a meal, etc., etc. So the £10 per month flat cost, which you talked about before, meeting online twice a month or once in person. Again, that is particular to our club, but you could of course do that. You set your own rules, of course, we all know that. And actually, they can be a resource pool for district events. So if the district has an event where it runs 10K, or whether it does a Special Olympics for people with disabilities, etc., etc., that's the sort of thing we run in our district. You've got a group of 25, as there is in our would say 25 people there, and they want to meet up and do things together because they don't meet every week together. You know, they don't meet in person, so they welcome a chance to support clubs or districts and go en masse, and they will have their t-shirts on and they will tell everyone they're from the passport club, and so it's quite a big thing for them to be able to help out. And I know that they've got 2 or 3 things lined up for when we come out of lockdown, so that they can go and help with. Passport members go on to set up hubs within the district. This wasn't intentional, it happened. And looking at your district would be a prime example of where perhaps that would happen. And that is that if we've got people in North Wales, Mid Wales, Chester, Wrexham, and Southport, and it's actually it's an awkward district to negotiate. So some of those are, you know, it's difficult to get around, so they form their own hub, and actually there'll be 5 of them in Northwich, and those 5 work together on a particular project. The ones in Wrexham are doing a different project around food. Mid Wales, they're doing all sorts of different stuff, but they're all starting to work with each other and help, and all the projects link in, but they work in their own little hubs. So, do you know anyone who's left Rotary recently for whatever reason? Do you know of anyone that you have asked who has politely refused due to their perceived lack of time? And if the answer is yes to the above, then you have the ideal prospective members of a passport club, because that is exactly how ours got started. Remember, most people leave Rotary within the first 2 years of joining simply because it's not what they were expecting. Those people that have left may have been expecting something a little less rigorous. Something where they can do their service, but it doesn't come all with all the bells, the whistles of Rotary that we're kind of used to. It's actually the most important part. I love the I love the fellowship of Rotary. I have to say, it's one of the big things for me. I love meeting people from all over the world. I love walking into a Rotary club somewhere else in the world. It's one of my favourite things about Rotary. But actually, let's face it, the main reason for Rotary is service in our communities. And this sort of club allows people to do service in their community without having to put everything else on it. Okay. Let's look at other things that we can do before I finish. Flexible and innovative clubs. We've got e-club as well, which I'm not sure whether you have an e-club. There is a difference between e-clubs and passport clubs. Cause-based clubs, things like environmentalist type clubs, or 999 club, a club where you can advertise it around the police, ambulance service, fire service, wherever it may be. Satellite club, which I'm sure you've all heard of. Alternative meeting groups, they are becoming more popular now. They don't want to meet at Wednesday on a lunchtime at the golf club because they can't anymore. So actually, instead of wrapping up that club and moving the whole club to the evening, they start an alternative meeting group in the evening. They're still part of their club, but it attracts younger people. The Rotary Community Corps, and of course Rotaract Group. Let's not forget about our Rotaractors. How do we get started? This is how we got started, very quickly. Small group of people, interested people, like we had, discuss your idea of the club with them. Get them meeting online and discuss how the club will work. Don't tell them, discuss with them the best way of doing it, and get their ideas. That after the first meeting, get them to bring somebody 2 weeks later. Tell them to go away and bring somebody else. So give them 2 weeks to bring somebody else in, and this is what we do, and this is how the group expanded. consider marketing the club. And I say consider because you might not want to market it straight away, because this is where you might get the little bit of people in the district saying, well, I'm not too sure. You're not, by marketing it, are you asking Rotarians to join it? It's a bit of a dangerous road to go down, so you have to be a bit careful. But have a project ready so people can get to work straight away. So you need to think about, because that's your talking point to get people in. We're going to do this project. We're meeting online twice a month. We meet up once a month, but we're doing this project. Would you like to come and help? And once you get them in to help, you get them at the meetings, you get them in. Consider forming hubs. I say that, they will form themselves. If you had a passport club in your district, as I say, looking at my map here, I would virtually guarantee it would form its own hubs. Use word of mouth to expand the group. This new style of volunteering, it is more popular than you think. A lot of the people who've been volunteering for the NHS would be more interested in this type of volunteering than they would be going to a more traditional type Rotary club. Approach former members, disenfranchised members, and those you've asked before but have declined. This, you do have to be careful. Okay, disenfranchised members, I'm talking about friends that you know, that not people that you know or you heard of in a club that might be not too happy. You know, it needs to be done very, very subtly so as not to upset people. And grow your online group to 20 as quickly as you possibly can. We'll open up for questions now. If anybody has any questions, I'm sure there's going to be one or two, and I'm happy to answer whatever.
Steve, thanks very much indeed. And you will get questions. This is a very inquisitive group. So if you do have any questions, put up your hand and we'll pick them up. And I'm going to throw the first one in. Throughout these forums that we've been running now for a year, the district and the clubs have been very clear that we talked about new clubs, e-clubs, and we were suggesting a new one for the district. And a lot of people said, no, we want one for each of the areas. And that sounds like when we've got 8 areas and we've got people on here in Shetland and we've got people in here in the very south of the district, 300 miles and an 8-hour ferry ride away. This sounds as though it could work really well together, Steve. What's your thoughts on that?
I think you're right, actually, because obviously my experience here is totally different to the geography of your area. Yeah, in North Wales we've got big hills, but they're not as big as your hills. You know, and there are areas of remoteness, and and this does work better. But we found, particularly in Wales, in mid Wales, that people have responded to it really, really well. But what we found is that our district is manageable, whereas your district is it's so much bigger and some places are more inaccessible. And I would suggest if you are split up into areas, then absolutely there is no reason, and you're not tied to a passport club per district. You can have more than one passport club. You know, you give it a name. You can put that bit of geography into the name so that people know that that's the area that it serves, that sort of thing. But you know, you need to sell this to people in clubs, existing clubs, as a bonus. This is not an in competition, because these people that join a passport club join it because they're attracted to it, and they join it because they're not attracted to the other club. And that doesn't mean to say that that club's not doing anything. They do fantastic work, but it's just that it doesn't suit everybody. So we're offering people an alternative.
Great. We've got 4 people with their hands up, Steve. First is Philip Ross from Kirriemuir.
Oh, great talk, Steve. Thank you. A couple of things occurred to me. Well, we started a collaboration with a community group in our area, and I was asking one of the people who's a lot younger than our typical Rotary membership, what was the barrier to joining Rotary? And she said that people don't want to commit, they don't want to sign up, which you've alluded to in your talk. And then at the weekend we had Volunteer Expo, and Sarah Vibert talked about micro-volunteering. And I wondered about sort of joining those two ideas together and what we talked about part of what we talked about last week was building a new model. So you've talked about passport clubs as an alternative. As far as I can see looking at them, most of what you suggested could be done in an existing club. So it's kind of a continuum. And what I was wondering was, how do you get existing clubs to accept that philosophy, that drop by and help out whenever it suits you? Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, they're normally quite happy as well. People drop by and help them. The plan is, the idea with the Passport Club was not really for the Passport Club to do its own projects, but this Passport Club that's been formed in our district has been absolutely prolific during the pandemic. Some of the things, and I'm going to put I'm not going to go through everything, but I'm going to put their Facebook page into the chat, the link, so you can have a little look at it afterwards, because their particular style on the Facebook and the way they put things is quite interesting. So have a little look at it from a public image point of view. But you know, hand on heart, there has been one or two problems, and you know, and I would not say that there hasn't, and that is because they went into a particular area and they made quite a sizable donation of food to a food bank, and it was quite a sizable, because they've got the sort of Rotarians in this club. They seem to have unbelievable connections, which is what Rotary is all about, I know. But particularly around, I know this sounds ridiculous, around potatoes. Okay, potato gates. We have this issue with potatoes. They've managed to get hold of it, and they've got outlets for them all. So they deliver all these. Some of it brings in money as well, so they use that to put it back into the community. But they deliver stuff to food banks, and it was quite a sizable donation. And we had a complaint from the club complaining that this Rotary Club were donating food to the food bank. Now, there's two ways of looking at this, and that is, a food bank have got a sizable donation of food here from Rotary, okay, from Rotary, and should we be complaining about that, or should we simply be saying to them, listen, you know, before you do that next time, try and speak into the local club and say, listen, we're going down to the food bank with a shed load of food. Do you fancy coming down with us? So there's ways of doing things, and we have learned by our mistakes. So it hasn't always been a smooth ride, but actually there's been two incidents that we've had to deal with where clubs have got a little bit upset, just two. But the amount of incidents where clubs have jumped on board and said, is there any chance you can come down and help us with this? Or what you're doing is really interesting, could we get involved? The collaboration between the Passport Club and the other clubs in the district has been brilliant. So there are one or two incidents.
That sounds brilliant as a way of encouraging existing clubs to be flexible. Brilliant, thank you.
Just remember, and if people say to you, just remember, when people put £1 into a bucket outside Tesco's, they are not giving £1 to the Rotary Club of Pillinmuir, and I hope I got that right. They are giving £1 to Rotary. They really couldn't care less which club it goes to, and a lot of people, it's us. We create the boundaries. We create that pocket of area that we say, oh, that's our area. That's our boundary. There's no boundaries in Rotary. It's about service, and it's about helping people, and we shouldn't make that boundary a boundary against people giving money. And
that's a good point. Thank you.
Good points, Steve. And yeah, we can't say Kirriemuir either. We just shorten it to Kirrie. So our next one is Kath from Forth Bridges. Kath.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the talk, Steve. In what you describe as your Passport Club, you actually describe my Rotary Club, Forth Bridges, because we don't do all the things that you've mentioned that people don't like gongs and so on. But what interested me in your talk was that we've now, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there are only two types of Rotary Club. There's something that's called a Rotary Club, and there's something that's called a satellite club. There actually aren't any other types of clubs, but there are other types of meetings. And I think, to echo Mark Huddleston from Australia, whom you've maybe come across, Rotary is considerably meeting centric. And one of the things you quoted was why people didn't join, I couldn't be doing with all these meetings. And you talked about the relaxed attendance at the Passport Club and the meeting formats and so on. Why are we calling it a Passport Club? Why don't we just invent clubs like that and call them clubs? That's the bit that I'm sort of puzzled about. I mean, it's quite clear that the club that you describe are doing well, and they're doing a lot in the community. And as you said a moment ago, it's all about service. So why don't we just get on and do it? Why do we name types of clubs? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, because it was started somewhere else and it was accepted, and they actually, when they started the club over in America, they had to apply to RI for permission to form this sort of club, because it was kind of everybody, was aware that our sort of constitution had certain rules and what have you, and I know that RI are very much saying, let's relax this and you can do this and we will always support you to do that. But on the other hand, we do have people waving bits of paper saying, oh, you can't do that because we've got the constitution. So, we have to get the balance right. But they quite correctly went to RI and said, look, this is what we would like to do. This is our plan. We have people who want to do service. They don't want to be part of a club. They want to do service, and that's it. And they sold the idea to Rotary International. Rotary International said, yeah, that's a great idea. You can have what they now call a Passport Club. So it was like an e-club. It has been, and I'm not a great lover of the word club, I'll be honest with you, but it rolls off the tongue now. But you can, and I do know a little bit about your club. I have heard about your club. Yes, of course. Yeah, your reputation goes before you. And yes, it's great. You don't have to give it that title if you don't want to. Your club can operate, as you well know, your club can operate pretty much how it wants to. We have a constitution. We have some rules there that you've got to stick to. But actually, what we're doing by calling it a Rotary Passport Club, we're selling it as a new product. And let's face it, we do have to sell Rotary to people. We have to sell Rotary to people inside of Rotary, never mind outside of Rotary. We're selling a product, we're rebranding it, if you like, really, just to say to people, look, this is a different way. This is a passport. With this passport, you can go and you can visit all these different clubs. You can drop in, you can get ideas from them. You can tell them what your passport club's up to. You can, whatever it is you want to do. The idea is that you're a bit of a nomad, really. You can go from one place to the next. You can help them. You can help them with, they're doing a cake sale on Saturday morning. Yeah, I can come along and help you with that. That'd be great. And then when you're there and you're talking about what's happening at the Passport Club or something that's happening on the other side of the district, they'll say, oh, we didn't know about that. Maybe we could come along. You can run projects together. So I understand where you're coming from, Kath. I do. It's a bit like calling it a Passport Club for the sake of it. But it seems to have worked, and it's giving people an alternative. And we run it along the lines of the way it was set up in America, because it works in our district. And all I can say is that we haven't had one like this in our district before. And because it is a district-wide thing, it's not for a particular area, it's become quite appealing to people, not for people to join, but for people to collaborate with. People know that the Passport Club is a good place to go to for assistance or ideas. Does that help?
Well, yes. Very briefly, though, because there's a queue and I don't want to hold people up. I mean, since the call of 2016, we've been pretty well allowed to do whatever we like with clubs. Article 7 and Article 9 of the Constitution, which I'll cheerfully quote to you, allows us to hold meetings when we like and to have any types of membership. But it's David's turn to speak now. Thank you very much, Steve.
Yeah, Kath, I fully fully support you. You are talking my kind of language there, and I know all about that. But you have no idea how many clubs that when they say, we'd like to do this, we'd like to do that, we'd like to do this, we'd like to do that, how many, and I get personal phone calls about this all the time, and they say, we'd love to do this, but we can't because we have a group of 3 people in our club. They run the club, and they keep saying things like, I've got the constitution here, and the constitution says this, and you can't do it. And it's extremely frustrating, not just for me, but for the people in the club who actually really want to try and do something, you know. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and Kath was also involved in a club that you and I have been involved in further south, trying to help them understand some of this. David Burney.
I think my question was almost answered, but I'm just trying to, for the audience like myself, I'm not really too clear on what the difference is between e-clubs, passport clubs, satellite clubs, and whatever else. Is it just simply down to the constitution?
Not really. Good question, because it quite often gets asked in this one, and that's why I skirted over it before, because I knew somebody would ask. And that is that an e-club, you can have an e-club, and you can have members in your e-club, and I know that you have an e-club in your district anyway, from all over the world. You know, they don't have to be, but the Passport Club is about geographically is within the district boundaries. It is about serving your district. It is about being able to serve in your local community,
Okay.
but not necessarily belonging to a club. Okay, so if I were a member of the Passport Club, I would meet online every couple of weeks, but I live on a place called the Wirral. It's a little peninsula between Liverpool and Wales, and we've got loads of Rotary clubs here, but some of them are a little bit too traditional for my liking. Some of them meet at lunchtime. One of them's a great club, but it meets at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I don't know if that's my local club. It's only down the road, so I might be thinking, well, you know, which one do I want to go to? But the Passport Club, for me, it does the service. It's planning its socials. It does everything that I want out of Rotary. Still go to meetings where I want to, and I've been in Rotary for quite a long time now, so I know loads of people in the surrounding clubs, so I feel comfortable at any of those clubs. I just wouldn't particularly want to join any of them long term. Roughly
what size of numbers are you getting for the Passport Club?
There's about 25 members now.
Right, okay.
25 members. We're expecting at the end of the year, and this is we're expecting at the end of the year that number to go up, because we, like many districts, will have 1 or 2 clubs that are closing, and we expect, we know that those members are going to fall into the Passport Club. Now that might add, you know, 8 or 10 members. We don't expect that those people will stay there forever, because they might decide that they want to move on to another club of their own. But the Passport Club is a safety net for those people to go to, so that those people are not leaving Rotary. Because a lot of people, you wouldn't believe that, I've spoken to people who thought that when their Rotary Club closed down, that they had to leave Rotary. And that is a lot of that is because when people join Rotary, they don't look, or they're not encouraged to look outside the 4 walls of their Rotary Club, which is a real shame, because Rotary, as we know, is a huge worldwide organisation with massive potential of opportunities for everybody. But if you just stick within the 4 walls of your own club, you perhaps don't see them.
Excellent.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks for that, Steve. And just in case you couldn't pronounce Kirriemuir last time, we've now got Bob Harley from Kirriemuir.
Hi, Steve. Really enjoyed your presentation. I have a brother-in-law who used to be a vicar in Barnston in the Wirral, who took me to a football match to see Airbus play Wrexham. I don't know what your loyalties would be, but Airbus were the winners. On the 1st of June, Kirriemuir is having a Rotary information evening, and we're inviting people that we think might want to join us, but we're presenting it a bit more subtly than that. And I have written to some people, you know, wondering what their expectations of Rotary is, so that it's a 2-way street. It's not just us telling them, but we want to find out too what they think Rotary is about and what it should be about. But in blissful ignorance, I only mentioned three things: a friend, an associate, or a full member. But there's so many other things like e-members. And until tonight, I never heard of the idea of a passport membership. I'm assuming that it's free, but that seems another good way of having people join us without making a huge commitment.
It is, but it's not free. A passport club is the same as any other club. You know, you have to pay the same
Well, you have
fees
to
as
pay your dues.
yeah, you still have to pay
It's not
dues.
like being a friend or an associate then. It is
No, it's not.
Full
The club
membership.
is- yeah, well, yeah, it's a full membership. It's a full membership, and they are our passport club are very much a very busy Rotary club, and so they operate like any other. They have the same constitution and rules as any other club as well. It's just that they don't have a physical place that they meet. They meet online twice a month, and they
So
meet.
a passport is a club. So we couldn't have people in our club that were passport members. It has to be a full
An
club.
area, or yeah, it would be an area or a district or something like that. We've had clubs that have been a difficult way to describe this, but my club formed the district, formed the passport club, and we formed it with a view to. We decided that's how we wanted to meet, so we all decided to form the passport club and to move into the passport club. But when push came to shove, we had so many things going on in our community with our club, half done, that we didn't want to do it. The passport club formed, and now at the end of the year we are dropping into the passport club. So you can't be in both. It is an actual club. But when you talk about e-clubs, you know, e-clubs, the difference between an e-club, like I said before, is they can have people from all over the world. Passport club is within your district. It's like a district club, if you like, okay, or an area club, because you can have 3 or 4 of them. You know, it's entirely up to you. But I would suggest, if you're going to invite people along and say, this is Rotary, this is us, this is what we do, if you offer people associate membership or friends of Rotary, that is what they will take. You will probably find that they won't come along as members. I would go along of explaining Rotary membership and then talk about associate membership. But associate membership is going to be phased out. So you can perhaps call it something else if you like. There's no reason why you can't have it. Why not have people come along to your meetings? And you know, but they just don't become full members. That's all. And of course, that's really what we want people to. And you'll find if people come along, if they like it, they'll stay and they will become full members. But yeah, best of luck with that. I hope it goes well. But I think you're right. You need to say to people, go into the community, say, we're having a meeting. We'd like you to come, but actually, we'd like you to bring your ideas. What do you think? What project would you like to see done in the local community? Because that's what we want to hear. And when they come up with the idea, you say, great, come and help us. That's your first member. So.
Thanks, Steve.
I think we've got space for probably 3 more questions. And in that, one of the suggestions I've made to people before is, if you want to know what Rotary should look like and feel like, don't ask Rotarians, ask potential members, and then make the product fit that. Tony Payne, now here's from Kirkcaldy, who's celebrating their 100th charter this year, I believe. Tony.
Yes, I'll post again. We actually tomorrow we were founded 100 years ago, so that's a little bit of an advert. Steve, that was a very interesting discussion on. I would have loved a club like this when I was an active worker, I suppose. I used to travel the world, but because I couldn't meet up with the attendance requirements, I could never have joined Rotary, which was, you know, stupid in many respects. My concern is you touched on the point of fees. You know, that I know a number of people as secretary, people who say they don't want to join Rotary because it costs them too much. Now, you mentioned £10 a month, which doesn't sound a great deal, but it sounded, the way you said £10 a month, you pay it almost on a monthly basis, but that's not true, is it? You have to pay your months. We have to pay our fees to RI every 6 months. So that is, you know, 60 quid basic payment, which has to go through. That might still put people off. That's what I'm saying. I think you answered in many respects in your last questionnaire. You answered most of the gave most of the answers, but I'm still concerned, I think.
Yeah, no, it's funny actually. I'm just looking for some notes that I made in a meeting on that very subject, and of course I can't find them. Why would I be able to? But it's very topical. That what you said is very, very topical, and I can't say too much at this moment in time. But what I would say is that it is being looked into. The problem that we have is that we because of the type of organisation that we are, you know, it costs that £2 a week to be a member of Rotary, and you know, it hasn't been asked yet. Actually, I'm still waiting for somebody to ask this question, and that is why should we join Rotary when we can go and volunteer down the road for 3 hours on a Saturday morning at the food bank? Well, I mean, my answer to that is always the same. But dealing with this one in particular, you. By paying that 6 months in advance, if you don't do, if somebody doesn't do that, of course, because Rotary Great Britain and Ireland has to pay for that year-long subs. Okay, so they have to pay for that year. If they don't, then we kind of lose out if they leave and they don't keep paying. So that's why we have to do it. A lot of clubs, and that's the only way I can describe it. A lot of clubs underwrite that now, and they will say, "Listen, we're just going to do £10 a month." A lot of clubs do say it's £10 a month. If that person leaves, then the club, it's one of them. You have to kind of suck it and see. There is a push for Rotary in Great Britain and Ireland to do this and to take the hit. But actually, you know, if you look at the amount of people that we've got, potentially, it could be a massive hit. It could be nothing. It could be nothing at all. But they could take a big hit financially if we went down that route. But I understand what you mean. And somebody said to me, there are people out there that can't afford £2 a week. And I absolutely understand that. I'll take you back to that guy that I did my volunteering, and I introduced him at the beginning of this speech. Did he afford £2 a week? He's just bought his first car at 30 odd for 500 quid, feeling very proud of himself. But actually, it depends on how committed he is. I would suggest knowing him, I would suggest yes, he probably would, but he might not be able to. But there's still a place for him in Rotary. There is still a place in Rotary Community Court. There's no reason why that person can't come along to your meetings and get involved in Rotary and help you with your projects. There is no reason that people can't get involved if they can't pay the fees, and we should encourage that. But I accept what you're saying, and I think that can be seen as a block. And you know, it's not my place to say anything at the moment, but it is being looked at, and we do understand it.
And there is a club in our district, Forth Bridges, does £10 a month. It's easy. If next two people keep it short, I'm only going to manage two more, I think, questions. So there's going to be Bill McSeveny next, and then Robbie Middleton. And apologies, Neil, I think we're going to run out of time.
Steve, thank you. I wonder if there's a problem with the branding of Rotary in the big scale. And I'm going to go back to this person you've been talking about, the example you gave earlier on. I've got a guy in Cooper who's an assistant nurse, who's never going to be a leader. Think about the way that Rotary portrays itself, leader, business, and so on. He's an assistant nurse, doesn't earn a lot of money. He's potentially the best Rotarian I can imagine. He's actually a former pupil of mine.
Yeah.
The way that Rotary sets itself out in terms of talking about business, talking about leadership and so on, I wonder if you have a view on that.
Yeah, I do. People do mention that a lot, but it does, if you read it, it does say community as well, members of the community. It does go on to say that, and they have altered it to say that. But actually, even if it did say that, I wouldn't be saying to this guy, here's our rules, this is what you must do, this is what you should. You say to him, you would make a great Rotarian, and you would be welcome at our club any day of the week. There's no reason whatsoever for somebody to say, yeah, come along to Rotary. You know, however, you're supposed to be a professional leader, but we just won't tell anyone.
Or even we'll make you into a leader.
Yeah, he's an assistant nurse. How do you know that he is not a leader in his community, or has the potential to be a leader in the community. And let's not forget, Rotary, it's not all about what we do for other people. It's about what Rotary can do for you. What could Rotary do for him? You know, that's what you need to look at. And that's what we need to sell to them. We need to say to these people the opportunities. But Ken talked about all the places I've been. I've been to all those places because Rotary made that available to me. They were opportunities, and I don't sit on my backside. If there's an opportunity, I will go for it. But they're open to everybody, and that could be the making of that guy and his career. So get him in. That's what I'm saying.
And if Robbie keeps it nice and short, the final question from Robbie Middleton.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Just a little clarification for me. I think you said that your club was changing into a passport club. If you do that, I assume that takes away your ability for your club, for instance, to become a registered charity. In other words, you would be from now on purely helping other clubs with established councils, committees and charitable status.
No.
Or would you carry that on?
Yeah, actually the Passport Club has been set up now for nearly a year, and our club has stayed on. So our club was a registered charity, which we're winding down, okay, in the normal way. But the satellite club is satellite club. The Passport Club is a registered charity. They've got registered charity status, and I was looking at, my wife works for the Charity Commission actually, so I was having a little sneaky peek on her computer the other day. But yes, they have registered charity status, and actually one of the things that they do is they're experts at. They've got somebody in their club, and he is an absolute expert at blagging money from local councils. They have got grants for literally tens of thousands of pounds in the last 12 months. So that's his thing. That's what he does. Second. So
yeah. Steve, absolute, and that mine's milk and no sugar, please.
It's just to me that he's cup of tea.
Yeah.
Steve, absolutely brilliant today. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks very much for coming along and explaining all of that. I think the real story in all of there is the flexibility and what you offer potential Rotarians. And you can do that any way you want. People want to be volunteers. We had 6,000 plus registrants for our Volunteer Expo this past weekend. And I hate to think how many people visited the stand in total. I only stood on duty for a couple of hours. Steve was there most of the weekend. People want to do it. Let's give them the opportunity. And if you want to know a little bit more about Steve, just before he goes, and I'm not going to invite him to answer this question, just ask him about this lizard.
Maybe that should be a story for another day.
Steve,
yeah.
Thanks very much indeed. For the Rotarians in 1010, we'll be back next Monday at 10:30. And in 2 weeks' time, it'll be on the Wednesday. And for those that saw at the time, Seeds of Social Change are coming back to speak to us again a bit longer. We gave them 15 minutes assembly. Otherwise, we'll see you all next week. Thank you all very much indeed. And a particular thanks to Steve. And if you could all just join me thanking Steve.
Pleasure. Just to let you know, guys, that's Facebook page. The link to the Facebook page is in the chat. If you click on that or save it or whatever it is you want to do, open that up, have a little look at their Facebook page. They are prolific. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And maybe, hopefully, next time I come and see you, we'll be face to face and we won't have a screen in front of us. It'd be great to see you all.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks,
Thank
Ken.
you.
See ya.
Good stuff.